second. Look at me. All right. We are recording, I think. Is it recording? It is recording. All right, we can start now. My apologies. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 UC Riverside Staff Conference hosted by the UCR Staff Assembly, Employee and Organizational Development, EOD, and the Leaders of Excellence and Distinction, LEAD. We're so thrilled to have you join us today. A few helpful notes in case you have never attended Zoom events before. Each session is being recorded and will be available via Zoom events website. Registered conference participants will be able to access the recorded sessions for up to 90 days. If you would like closed captions for this session, please click on the Show Closed Caption button at the bottom of your screen. And while we can use the chat to interact, please submit your questions using the Q&A feature, please, and not the chat. This allows other folks to vote for questions that they'd like to have answered. We can give it a minute or two to allow more people to join. And as we're waiting, please let me know in the chat where you're listening from today. You can let us know if you're on campus, you're UCR folk, or if you are coming from other campuses. And we will continue shortly. Thank you for joining, everyone. We're very excited you're here. I'm joining in from the UCR School of Medicine. Woo-woo, and I'm very excited to be here. Welcome, UC Davis. How exciting. Oh, University Honors, UCR. Welcome. We have more UCR. Oh, UC Santa Cruz. How exciting. UC Davis School of Medicine, Sacramento. Whoop-de-woo. Welcome, welcome. UCR School of Med representing. UC Merced. How exciting. School of Business. Welcome. We're very excited, guys. Thank you for joining. All right, so we will get started with our session. So as always, please be mindful of the UCR's principle of community. I'll put that in the chat in a few. And in order to get started, so we can maximize our time today to have as much time to hear what the speakers have, I will go ahead and give a brief bio of our speakers. And I'm very blessed and privileged that I'm the one doing this because these are my colleagues and friends here in the School of Medicine. So it couldn't have been any better. Today's title is Planning Smarter: Tools and Changes Shaping UC Events. And the speakers today is Nenaya Akabogu and Kate Dorff. Nenaya Akabogu is the program coordinator in the Office of Faculty Development at the UC Riverside School of Medicine. She has over 4 years of experience supporting faculty development and organizational initiatives within academic medicine. She manages cross-functional programs and events and leverages data and performance metrics to inform strategic decision-making within her department. Her interests include photography and creative storytelling as tools for connecting with others. As for Kate Dorff is the Manager of External Relations and Protocol in the Strategic Initiatives Unit of the School of Medicine. In this capacity, she provides strategic communication support and manages public-facing events. She has previously worked for CHAS, ArtsBach, and undergraduate admissions at UCR. She is the recipient of the School of Medicine's Values in Action Award and is a member of the school's Staff Professional Development Committee. Kate has worked in academic events for more than 10 years. She is a mother of 4 young children and enjoys spending her free time with her family. Without any further ado, let's give it up for Nenaya or Nena and Kate to give us our presentation today. Let's give them let's react or something. Let's engage. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm just going to take a second here to share my screen and get the presentation going. Oh. All right, so thank you guys for joining us. We're doing a presentation today, excuse me, for growth, learning and adapting to change in event planning.
So a few of our learning objectives of what we want you guys to get at the end of this presentation is to apply adaptive strategies to navigate organizational and policy changes within the UC systems event planning environment. We want you to be able to build resilience and flexibility when responding to unexpected challenges in your work. Implement best practices and expanded techniques to strengthen your event planning skills. And we want you to embrace a growth mindset as a core professional approach to continuous improvement.
And as you heard, I'm Kate Dorff, Manager of External Relations and Protocol at the UC Riverside School of Medicine, and I work in the Strategic Initiatives Department.
Yes, and I'm Nena. Well, I go by Nena Akabagu, Program Coordinator, and I work at the UC Riverside School of Medicine at the Office of Faculty Development. So I just want to take a little poll. You guys can use your raise your hand feature of how many of us have actually experienced these things. So raise your hand if you've had to learn a new event system in the past 3 years, or you've had a policy change affected your event timeline, a financial approval slowed down an event. You've said something around the lines of we didn't used to do it this way, and you felt change fatigue. Okay, we got a lot of hands, a lot of hands. See, so I just want everyone to know that we are not alone and we're working through this together. All right.
And so that leads us to the reality of change across the UC system is that change is constant for both events and, in life to a certain extent. Those of us who have been working in the field for years still encounter new systems to navigate or new policies being implemented in ways we weren't expecting, or there might be new requirements that we've never met before, even if we're doing an event that we've done year after year after year. Some of the changes in the last 6 years that I've encountered have been a whole variety from new systems being implemented, new approvals being required, new policies or new vendors that might be preferred. We've been through the process of needing to contract out if we're working with off-campus vendors. We've recently implemented new purchasing requirements with T&E cards or new ways of getting approvals for having alcohol at events. And these things can really, if you aren't expecting them, if they're coming up while you're doing your event planning, they can really stall your event and they can sometimes decrease your morale when you're trying to plan your event and continue through the process.
So before we get into the systems and tools we want to introduce to you guys, we want to start with the word evolve. As we've stated and seen, change is constant, especially in our environment in higher education. It comes with different systems, policy shifting, budgets decreasing and increasing, and the expectations still remain the same, sometimes even higher. But what we have to realize is that change isn't the obstacle. It's an opportunity. We're talking about how we respond to change, because although change can feel like a barrier, it can become a tool. And today, we really want to explore how shifting our mindset can allow us to not only just keep up, but actually grow us into a more strategic and more stronger and a stronger event professional. So some of the common reactions to changes in the systems and the systems that we use that I hear and that I've heard from my colleagues is, why are we changing this again? The old way worked fine. This takes longer. This doesn't make any sense. This is a lot, et cetera, et cetera. But I do want to be able to shift our mindset when it comes to things that we have said or that we've seen. Growth and evolution requires a level of discomfort. So reframe. Learning a new skill develops you professionally. Every system that we're using now was once unfamiliar. Every process that we're just now able to take in to put in our routine once felt complicated. So instead of seeing that discomfort or a lack of understanding as a sign that something isn't working, we can start to recognize it as a sign that we're learning and we're growing. So when choosing when things aren't easy to keep going, even when we're not, that's how evolution and growth really begins. So we want to talk a little bit about growth mindset and event planning and growth mindset as a whole. So fixed versus growth mindset. A fixed mindset is the belief that abilities are innate and unchangeable. So this perspective usually leads individuals to view success or failure as a reflection of inherent proficiency, often limiting personal growth. So you might hear things like, I'm not good with new systems. This is way too complicated for me. I'll never learn something like this versus a growth mindset, which is the belief that intelligence, abilities, and talents are not fixed traits, but can be developed through dedication, effort, and a willingness to learn. This perspective encourages individuals to embrace challenges, learn from feedback, and persist in the face of setbacks. It sounds like I can learn this. This will strengthen my process. This expands my skill set. And as we all know that event planning is full of changes, but it is built on adaptability. So the ability to adapt, learn, and stay open isn't just helpful anymore. It's very necessary. And the more that we lean into a growth mindset, the more confident and capable we become with every single change that comes our way.
So that leads us to our case study, which is one of the newer transitions that have taken place at UCR. Those of you from UCR will be familiar with the fact that we transitioned to using 25 Live for facilities reservations. This took place during this fiscal year, and it was a rolled out process. So many of the facilities on campus used to be decentralized in terms of reserving those facilities. You needed to know who was responsible for reserving the facility and be familiar with the particular system that that department used in order to request a facility for an event. Now, the majority of locations on campus are using the 25 Live system for facilities reservations. So on the one hand, that has been really useful because most of it is centralized. Not all of the facilities are on it, but the vast majority of them are. So you can be an event planner looking ahead for an event and you can see what facilities are available and you can input your request into the same system for a variety of different venues. In my opinion, it has really been a useful tool, but it posed a lot of challenges in rolling it out, just as any sort of change might, especially because, although certainly understandably, some facilities started being on this new system back in the summer, and some of them are still transitioning to it today. So that, created some confusion. There was a learning curve. You needed to familiarize yourself with the system for certain facilities, but not others yet. What I found personally very helpful was to attend any training session that was offered to me. So even if I was already working in 25 Live to reserve the hub for an event that was taking place back at the beginning of the academic year, I still attended the training session that School of Medicine was offering for like the mid academic year transition to 25 Live for our own facilities because it helped me become even more of an expert in learning the system. It helped me learn things that I might not have discovered yet in the system by attending this training session. And it also helped me identify who could be my point person to assist me if I had a question. And that's my next point here is identify the person that can help you with these new systems and reach out to them with the questions that you have, especially when they're first being implemented. There are no silly questions. If you don't know how to make it work, other people probably don't know how to make it work either. And sometimes you'll help identify an issue that the people on the back end implementing it didn't know existed and can solve for a variety of people. So leveraging systems strategically.
Yes. So, like Kate mentioned, once learning a new system, so once we move past the initial curve of learning a new system, this step is where the real growth happens. Learning how to use these systems not only functionally, but strategically, because there's a big difference between using a system because you have to, submitting requests and follow the required steps versus how we start asking ourselves, how can this system actually work for me? Instead of submitting at the last minute, we're planning earlier. We're anticipating approval timelines. We're using data to inform space selection, and we're reducing last minute conflicts. I know for me, like in the fall season, or at the School of Medicine in the fall season, we know that it is busy. We have new faculty orientation, we have the School of Medicine Gala, we have the celebration of Women in Medicine and Science event. So so we just know that that season is going to be busy. And so using tools like, okay, I'm not going to, we actually we had a thought leaders retreat that was normally in the fall. We moved it to the spring, and that allowed for us to be able to have more freedom of space, and just be able to plan earlier and space out our events so that we're not planning so many high level events simultaneously. So using these tools allowed us to create better strategies and allowed better outcomes to improve to use the process to improve outcomes. So the shift from just using a system functionally to actually using it strategically for yourselves is always the plan.
So another example of a change that our department experienced recently, and a way to sort of use systems strategically, I think, is that we started implementing T&E card use. Some of you who worked at UCR specifically might remember that staff used to be encouraged to seek reimbursement for certain event purchases. If there was an item that was needed for an event and it was not allowable on restricted funding, then oftentimes a staff person might actually be encouraged to like purchase it and submit for reimbursement on unrestricted funds. This could get challenging, though. It could take a long time to get approvals and reimbursements. And so the UCR campus transitioned to a lot of T&E card use. And that, again, sort of like rolled out through the different departments and colleges. And I understand that other UC campuses might have been using them earlier or more recently. And with anything, there were a lot of positives to it, but there was a significant learning curve. For our department, or for me personally anyway, I felt like even though I went through the trainings and got approved to have one, there's a process to getting approved, and then there's a learning curve for understanding what's allowable on the T&E card and what's not, and how to get those approvals to work in the Concur system. What was helpful for me was that I found that there were resources available online. So sometimes it just takes a little bit of sleuthing by Googling things and finding the resources online, and then also keeping a really good relationship with our business office and keeping those contacts and feeling comfortable reaching out to them and just asking questions like, can I charge this? Can I not? Our own internal School of Medicine has a business office and has like a reference guide available to us online. So that has been really, really useful. And now I find that I really appreciate the T&E card because it streamlines things and it allows me to purchase things for events a lot more quickly. It can improve my timeline for event planning. But that leads me to college and department specific guidelines. Even though we're at the same university, sometimes there are different guidelines within the different colleges or within the different departments themselves. And over the years, those college specific or department specific guidelines can shift. There can be new information that's put out to the campus as a whole. There can be new information that's put out to the system as a whole, or there can be new people overseeing certain systems who are reading through the policies and are saying, like, wait a second, this should be implemented this way. An event that can be completed every single year, sometimes I discover requires new paperwork or paperwork done in a different process than I might have experienced in past years. So one example that I've encountered is at one point we were not necessarily required to do gift and award forms for any sort of swag item that was being given out, even if it were like a smaller item that was just being distributed to promote the school. Now I find that one of the requirements is that we do a gift and award form to account for anything that's being given out in any instance. And so that's a new sort of learning curve, and it increases accountability to make sure that we're like spending appropriately. There's also been process shifts in getting event approvals. So when I first joined UCR, The department I was working in at the time, we used to just submit an entertainment pre-approval, get signatures on that first, and then go through the process of getting all the additional approvals for pieces of the event. Like, for example, if we were serving alcohol, we'd then get the alcohol permit. Now I find working at the School of Medicine that if we are going to be serving alcohol at an event and we've marked that on an entertainment pre-approval, our business office would like to have the alcohol permit first before they go on getting signatures for the entertainment pre-approval as a whole. So it's just more or different steps in the process. And I've found that building time into your timeline can be really helpful to navigate any of those different requirements that you might be encountering. Even if you are familiar with the event and familiar with the paperwork, there can be changes to the process that might surprise you, which leads me to adapting your timeline. So, of course, we know there are always sort of last minute requests for events, and you're trying to be dynamic and scramble to do what you can to pull something off. But certainly, if you do an annual event where you know that it's going to be taking place every year, starting the process as early as possible can really, really help with any of the timeline issues that you might experience in getting approvals or needing to navigate a new system and needing to reach out to ask questions. So it's important to keep that growth mindset and be dynamic in what you're going to need to address and build in buffer time for yourself when you start the planning process in case some of these unexpected changes come up and you have to work through how to navigate them or who to ask. And of course, identify who can help you and who you can ask to help you get through a new process that might surprise you. So make sure you're aligned with your stakeholders, you're keeping them updated on the process, and you're reaching out to whoever you've identified in the business office or in the facilities reservation system or in the risk management department who can help you and answer questions and get you through any sort of sticking point. And that leads me to hidden skills in these systems navigation. So there, like we've mentioned, there are resources available to you if you seek them out. I have found for School of Medicine, we have a business operations department that has a wonderful checklist that they've put online. So even if I feel familiar with an event and with the paperwork that's required of me, referencing the online checklist for the particular forms that they might be asking for in different situations is really helpful. Also, the university events team for UCR some time ago put together something called Event in a Box. And so if you go to their webpage, they have a lot of information with like helpful tips and contact information. Even though it's a few years old now, it still has really good, useful tools, especially if you're new at planning an event. And it gives you like contact information for at least who you can ask, and it can guide you through the process of planning an event. I've used it a lot of times for a staff assembly event planning. Building in time to navigate systems, as I've mentioned, I oftentimes find that to be the most helpful. And attending any trainings, even though I've been doing events for years, it keeps me refreshed and keeps me aware of like any changes that might be upcoming and keeps me like an expert in that area. And then trying to keep my relationships with my other event planners, that's really key because then we can discuss changes that they're encountering, their experiences navigating systems. It's helpful because overall, I think that event planning is changing and it's becoming necessary for us as event planners to have financial literacy and be system savvy and have more of a role in the compliance and logistics of all of the items that go into putting on the event.
So, I just want to acknowledge that change fatigue is real. Defined by the Center for Creative Leadership, change fatigue is a state of exhaustion that occurs when individuals or organizations experience continuous, rapid, or overwhelming changes. And in many of us, it's not just like one change; it's a layer of changes happening all at once. We're learning new systems while continuing to manage full event calendars. We're navigating staffing shortages, and I'm sure all of us in the UC system are feeling the hiring freeze. We're absorbing responsibilities that weren't originally ours. We're doing more with less year after year. we're mastering new systems, policies, and platforms, and expected to be able to be a master of them after 1 to 2 learnings, trainings. And we're continuously trying to meet deadlines for different events. So as we've noted, as from reference back to the poll at the beginning of this presentation, if you felt overwhelmed, you are not alone. Okay, you are not alone. So again, this happens again with the reframe that growth happens in the middle of this pressure. Skills are being built in real time. Resilience is developed, not assumed. Leadership is how we respond. Learning how to not have everything figured out, but how we show up in the middle of the change is where like I said before, the growth and evolution and resilience comes in. So, the goal is to continue to support each other when the workload feels heavy, to stay solution focused when things feel unclear, and continuing to keep learning when it feels frustrating. I think that is one of the most important things we can remember about change fatigue, that it is a temporary thing. It is something that you can overcome, and you can look and you can reframe your mindset around the different changes that happen in our organization.
Okay, so build a personal adaptation strategy. Change can be hard. Change can feel like a challenge and be a hard thing to encounter. And new systems can feel challenging and overwhelming. It's important to keep the growth mindset that Nana was just talking about, and then tackle any of those changes head on. So I personally oftentimes feel like I don't want to have to learn a new system or go through these things, but once I've encountered them, just continuing to attend and push through them is really essential. I ask myself, what specifically feels unclear to me in this situation, and then who can help me clarify it? And then is there any sort of training that I might have skipped that might be accessible to me somewhere? Just seeking out the information wherever I can find it. So it's helpful for everybody to come up with their own strategy of like what works best with them to get them through these hurdles so that they continue to move on and produce the best event that they can for their audience.
So some practical tips for adapting faster. Like Kate had mentioned, attending refreshers and office hours and different trainings of the different systems for of the new changes in different systems. Create internal guides. I know for me, when we were adapting to 25 Live and changing different systems, I had wrote my own notes because there were important steps that I knew that I was gonna miss. So I have that on my cubicle so that whenever I do go into 25 Live, I know, okay, this is the step that I need to remember to do. Creating internal guides has been helpful for me. Like Kate said before, scheduling buffer time. So if an approval takes maybe like 5 to 6 days normally to get approved, then creating a buffer time in your planning timeline for maybe like a week or 10 days, so that you can account for those delays. And like Kate had mentioned before, ask the why behind policies. Don't be afraid to ask questions. No question is a silly question. And most likely somebody else is probably thinking that question, so you're doing them a favor. And then share lessons with peers. I know for me on my team, I have our admin assistant who goes through her processes, and I'm able to learn from her just a little bit about what she does because she's able to reiterate what she does back to me. And I know that is a way for her to strengthen her understanding of the system. So being able to teach somebody else how you navigate through different systems it can be a way for you to adapt faster into changes, and it can be a way for you to strengthen your understanding of a system. And so I just want to be able to, to share with others and know that adoption doesn't have to happen in isolation. You can teach others, even though they may never work in a system. You're learning yourself, and you're also teaching others. So like I said before, collaboration is evolution. So we've discussed a little bit about individual growth, but it doesn't just happen individually, it happens collectively. I know that we're all over the UC system. All of us are from different campuses, but we have a huge advantage. We're not doing this work in isolation. Instead of us figuring things out on our own, we can start to learn from each other. Because I know that one change on a campus may be different from another change, but at the end of the day, it may have the same basis. So let's start, being able to share templates that have worked well for you to others, talking through processes with colleagues at other campuses, exchanging lessons learned, like I mentioned before, especially when something didn't go as planned, and building relationships with different teams, different space facilities, different managers and partners. I think knowing that we can collaborate is a way that we can continue to shorten learning curves. We can build consistency and we reduce duplication because maybe some problem that you're going through isn't new. Somebody may already have built a solution and a system for it, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can look to other people that have already mastered that system. So, when systems are mastered, events start on time because approvals were handled early. Vendors are paid properly because financial processes were followed correctly. Budgets reconcile smoothly because systems were used strategically. There are fewer last minute crises because everything was tracked along the way. And it's me and Kate were talking about this because it's so interesting in the sense that like there's so much that goes on behind the scenes, especially when planning an event. And what the attendees experience is just a seamless event. They see something pretty with a bow on top and, a well-prepared space, a smooth program. They don't see the systems. They don't see the fails. They don't see the successes. They just see that they had a great time at the School of Medicine Gala. They had a great time at a celebration of women in medicine and science. And so that's really what the goal is, to make sure that like the event that we plan looks seamless. It looks pretty. And they don't know maybe the chaos that goes on behind the scenes. So we want to be so turning the process into excellence, and excellence is always an excellent attendee experience. So the payoff of evolving, when we embrace change and choose evolution, we build stronger skill sets and increase our confidence. We increase credibility, which creates more opportunities. It allows strategic influence and allows leadership opportunities. So the more you grow, the more value you bring, and not just to your events, but to your entire organization and to yourself. You're stepping into a more strategic and influential version of your role. And so that's where your impact grows, because evolving is not just about keeping up and making sure that like you said, that each event is checked off. It's about increasing your skills and being more confident as you show up in your role.
And so this is more of a personal opinion, but the future of UC event planning, I do definitely see, especially since, the pandemic years ago, the UC event planning and systems sort of slowly moving toward this more immersive hybrid event. Many years ago, it was challenging just to have like a live stream take place of an event or have a Zoom like conference call in. And now there are a lot of interactive aspects of large and smaller events that are taking place, which of course requires this learning curve and this growth mindset. Also, at least in my experience at UCR School of Medicine, I see a lot of approvals and the logistic process becoming more centralized, more streamlined, which is very useful and also requires a learning curve and keeping this growth mindset available. And then, as always, events and the event process are about relationship building. You're building a relationship and trust with your audience when you give them that great experience. And when you're working through all of the changes and processes and systems, you're building relationships with your colleagues by continuing to stay updated and ask your questions.
So some of the key takeaways, as we end our presentation, is change is permanent in the UC system. Systems are professional development tools. Growth mindset reduces friction. Collaboration accelerates adaptation, and evolving planners create exceptional experiences. So
All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think that was a beautiful presentation. And if you agree, please react, with thumbs up, shooting star emoji, alien emoji, something. We need to see something so they can feel motivated because I genuinely learned a lot. Thank you so much for your engagement. Time for questions. We have about 10 to 12 minutes, maybe even 20 minutes. It would be a wonderful time to ask questions, to inquire with their insight, to speak to the presentation. So we will allow you to do so. You can put it in the chat. If you prefer to ask it in person, you can raise your hand and have a more engaging session. Thank you for being here and for sticking all the way through. We appreciate you.
It looks like Mary has a question.
Mary, please go ahead. You may be on mute, Mary, in case you're talking. Or maybe you are not, but we can't hear you, darling. Let's try it one more time while we wait for Mary to get back. We do have a question here. Do you have links for the event resources and guides that were mentioned? If so, it would be lovely to share them. Kate, I know you had put some from the event box.
Yeah. Oh, I would be happy to share them. I will, when I get off the meeting, I will compile them and maybe we can send them out.
Awesome. Yes, please. That would be lovely. Thank you. Mary, can you say hello so we can hear you? Oh, 1 second. Okay. We have another question here by Aviana. Thank you for joining us, Aviana. It was mentioned to find people who are helpful to ask questions for clarity. Who are 3 individuals you would shout out as someone we could go to?
Oh, I would definitely, for me personally, sorry, Nana, I'll give you an
No, go
opportunity
ahead.
also,
Go ahead.
but for me personally, the event parking team is wonderful, and so helpful, and that I'm sure that this is the case with all UCs, but particularly at UCR. Um, Parking is always a huge challenge with events. So identifying the individuals who can help me navigate making parking requests has been so helpful. And also working with main campus HR for contracting out, we've gone through an evolution of how that process takes place over the years. So the main campus HR team has been incredibly helpful with that. And I am oftentimes surprised with when I might need to contract out and when I might not need to contract out. And so they also have been able to help me with a lot of questions. And then I don't know, Nena, you might have other other teams that you've worked with.
No, I mean, you mentioned earlier business operations, especially with having their event timeline and things online. It's made it so much easier to be able to navigate that. So I would definitely shout out business operations. Mary asked, do you have a comprehensive check sheet for events? I know for our team personally, we took Kate's template. So Kate has a wonderful template that goes through each event checklist, and you can customize it for each event.
Yeah, and I actually have to admit that I have oftentimes referenced university events template that they have online for events in general, and then I've gone through and customized it or put it in a different system that we might all be using to plan a particular event. Depending on which department we're working with, sometimes we're using like online systems, sometimes we're just sharing a spreadsheet. So going through a general event timeline, making it more specific and putting it in the online system that works for everybody who's working together to produce that event is what I've done. But I would be happy to share like a general event planning timeline check sheet.
That would be great. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I figured out the problem. It was technical. So yeah, that would be absolutely wonderful, Kate, because I know I've used them in the past, but I haven't kind of compiled one for myself here just due to lack of time. But it would be
That
very
makes
helpful to
sense.
make sure you crossed the T's and dotted the I's.
Absolutely.
These are all great questions. Thank you for asking them, guys. Any other questions? I think they did an excellent job. So maybe in the next 1 minute or two, maybe we can put in the chat what we learned today, a takeaway value. So that way our speakers can know that their presentation did hit the nail on the head. Please and thanks. Oh, Nana, we gotta redo the session, girl. Oh, there we go. They learned something. That's good. Oh, how wonderful, Nana. Oh, this is wonderful. Keep trying, changes. That's right. Oh, how awesome. Somebody downloaded the Event in a Box PDF. Thank you. Plan well in advance as well. Use systems strategically. Very well. How engaging. Thank you, everyone. Awesome. I would say today's event was quite successful. Without any further ado, unless there's any questions, Rudy, Nana, Kate, any parting shots, words to end?
Oh, thank you guys so much for coming. We appreciate all of your participation.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. This was really great.
Awesome. Well, I do hope everyone continues to have a lovely UCR staff conference experience over the next 2 days. Thank you for joining, and we hope to see you in the other sessions. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Awesome. Awesome. All right, we're good to go.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I'm good to end the meeting.
We are good to end the meeting, I
Okay,
believe.
good.